And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Experience Hockey Talk, serious hockey talk for serious hockey fans. Welcome to this edition. We are 3 days removed from the start of the NHL playoffs, and I'm actually trying to do something real quick. I'm doing a different camera angle. It would work. There we go. Now it works. Now I can get out of this. Alright, so this new idea is working. We'll go with it. So, we are 3 days removed from the start of the NHL playoffs. Game 1 started on Wednesday night. So with that, we're going to hop into Wednesday, then into Thursday, then into last night, and then I'm going to wrap the show on the Washington Capitals. The reason I'm going to wrap with the Capitals and not start with the Capitals is because I want to talk about all of the playoffs, and I feel that if I start with just the Capitals, it'll throw things out of whack. And for those wondering, yes, there is content from Thursday night, from Game 1 between the Washington Capitals and the Columbus Blue Jackets. It has not been edited yet. I will be doing MCW Pro Wrestling tonight, and actually I'm planning on leaving as soon as this show is over to go out to the location, and so I can set up and actually spend time doing video editing to get everything edited, to hopefully have everything up tomorrow night. So I want to try to have everything up tomorrow night, especially the fact that tomorrow we will be doing at 11:55 a.m. the Gwendolyn Arabian Knights versus the Gwendolyn Gladiators for the DCHL Game of the Week. And then also at 2:40 p.m. We'll be broadcasting the Street Sharks versus First Ladies Rec. We're still trying to get a camera person for that, so I'll be working on that till the 11th hour to get that done. So, good morning, Shaggy, and of course, huge thank you goes to Shaggy for the ticket hookup for Game 1 Thursday night. Thank you so much, Shaggy. It is greatly appreciated, my friend. So, hopping right on into it, let's take a look at the Game 1s that took place on Wednesday, April 11th, starting off with the Philadelphia Flyers versus the Pittsburgh Penguins in Pittsburgh. This one was not a very good game. This was not a very good game for the Philadelphia Flyers. Anything and everything went wrong for them. In the first period, 2:38, Brian Rust scored. Then at 10:07, Carl Hagelin scored. Then at 14:09, Evgeny Malkin scored. Then in the second period, on the power play at 7:50, Jake Gensel scored. Then at 9:01, Sidney Crosby scored his first of the game. And then in the third period at 7:41 and 10:42, Sidney Crosby would score 2 more goals, giving him the natural hat trick as the Pittsburgh Penguins defeated the Philadelphia Flyers 7-0. Major thing that happened in this one was that lots of turnovers by the Philadelphia Flyers in their own zone. It was not a very well-disciplined game by the Philadelphia Flyers. And Brian Elliott, you could clearly see still shaking off a lot of the rust that he had. And we'll talk more about Flyers-Penguins a little later because they played last night. But definitely not the best game from the Flyers. A big game for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And so Pittsburgh then took a 1-0 lead in their series on Wednesday night. Then, in Game 1 of the Minnesota Wild Winnipeg Jets series, you had a very wild back-and-forth game between these two teams. In the first period, there was no scoring between the two teams, but in the second period, at 17:37 on the power play, Mark Scheifele would score his first of the playoffs. Then going into the third period, a minute 46 in, Matt Cullen would score his first of the playoffs. And then at 3:58, Zach Parise would score his first of the playoffs to give Minnesota a 2-1 lead. But then after that, at 4:51, Patrick Laine would score to tie the game at 2 apiece. And then at 12:47, Joe Morrow would score his first of the playoffs to give Winnipeg a 3-2 victory over the Minnesota Wild and giving them a 1-0 lead. This is the first win in this version of the franchise's history in the playoffs. So definitely a massive win for the Winnipeg Jets to get the 1-0 series lead in that one against Minnesota. Obviously, big factor to look into with this series is also going to be how is What is the full-term impact of not having Ryan Suter in the lineup going to be? How truly healthy is Jared Spurgeon for the Minnesota Wild as well? Because without really those two at 100% or in the lineup at all, Minnesota is not going to have an ideal series and could be swept in 4. But we'll also have more about that because they just played Game 2 last night as well. And then in a very tightly contested matchup, it would be the Vegas Golden Knights winning their first ever playoff game in franchise history, in their first ever playoff game too. 1-0 as Shea Theodore would score the lone goal at 3:23 of the first period. Marc-Andre Fleury would post the shutout for the Golden Knights, also a first for franchise history when it comes to playoffs as well. This was a massive game. It also saw Drew Doughty receive a disciplinary hearing, which we'll talk about in a moment. But I only watched I saw a lot of the Wild Jets game. I saw the entirety of the Flyers Penguins game, so I know more about those two games. But for Gaines Golden Knights, I only watched the first period, but one of the biggest takes I took from that game was how physical that game was. And by the 10-minute mark of the first period, the LA Kings were out hitting the Vegas Golden Knights 20-10. When I looked at the stats Thursday morning, the hits were 69-58 in favor of the Kings. They went for a total of 127 hits in just the first game. I haven't looked at the full stats for last night's game. I watched the first 2 periods and then went to bed because I was tired and I needed to get some sleep before I did the show today. But no, that number was not overblown, Shaggy. That I literally looked at the stats and I remember watching the game Wednesday night and the game last night. You know, those two teams are playing a very, very physical game. I don't think it's overblown at all. But definitely a big win for the Golden Knights. Definitely a confidence booster for the Golden Knights as well. And then moving on to Thursday night, you had more Game 1s. The first Game 1 was the New Jersey Devils and the Tampa Bay Lightning in Tampa Bay. The Tampa Bay Lightning would beat the New Jersey Devils 5-2. In this game, in the first period of 15 minutes even, Andre Palat would score his first of the playoffs, and at 19:31, Tyler Johnson would score his first as well. Then in the second period, at 1:54 on the power play, Yanni Gourde would score his first power play or playoff goal. And then at 13:55, Taylor Hall would score his first of the playoffs. Then in the third period at 9:35 on the power play, Travis Zajac would score for the New Jersey Devils. But at 12:14, Alex Killorn would score for the Lightning. And then at 18:48, Nikita Kucherov would score for the Tampa Bay Lightning as well to pull the game out of reach for the Lightning against the Devils. So Tampa Bay taking a 1-0 series lead in their series against the Devils. Honestly, I said this on the preview special on Tuesday night. I think this is a series where Tampa Bay just wins it in 4 games straight up. The Devils don't have a real defense. Keith Kincaid is currently their #1 goaltender. I don't see it panning out very well for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then in the other Game 1 that took place at 7 o'clock p.m. was the Boston Bruins hosting the Toronto Maple Leafs. This one did not go very well for the Toronto Maple Leafs. In the first period on the power play, Brad Marchand would score his first of the playoffs at 5:28, and then at 16:52, Zach Hyman would tie it up for the Toronto Maple Leafs, but then after that, it would be all Boston, as in the second period at 15:43 on the power play, David Backes would score his first of the playoffs, and then at 19:22, David Pastrnak would score his first of the playoffs as well. And then in the third period, Sean Corley would score his first at 7:41. David Krejci would score on the power play as well at 11:29 to give the Boston Bruins a 5-1 victory and a 1-0 series lead over Toronto. Obviously, one of the biggest things that came out of this game was the completely unnecessary and definitely suspendable hit by Nazem Kadri. We'll talk more about that in news and notes, but that definitely hurt the Toronto Maple Leafs when one of their best centers essentially takes themselves out of the game by doing a very stupid retaliatory play like he did. And definitely the impact that will be felt throughout the series is also going to be seen as well. And then, of course, for the Capitals, they lost 4-3 in overtime, the first overtime of the playoffs. Let's see here. You had 2 power play goals by Evgeny Kuznetsov at 17:52 and 18:21 off of the Josh Anderson 5-minute major for boarding. And then in the second period, Alexander Wenberg would score at 4:48. Then in the third period at 1:31 on the power play, Thomas Vanek would score, which I think was a weak call on Wilson. And then at 5:12, Devontae Smith-Pelly scored his first of the playoffs for the Caps. And then at 15:34 on the Andre Burakovsky tripping penalty, which was the correct call to make on that one, Seth Jones would score at 15:34 on the power play. And then in overtime at 6:02, Artemi Panarin would score his first of the playoffs. But I will break that down a lot more in a little bit. Next up, you have the Nashville Predators versus the Colorado Avalanche. The Colorado Avalanche were actually able to get a 1-0 lead in the very beginning by getting a goal. It wasn't charging, not by a long shot. He glided into it. Per the rule, it wasn't charging. Blown call. Get over it. But anyways, moving to the Predators and the Avalanche. At 6:36 of the first period, Nikita Zadorov would score for the Colorado Avalanche, getting home a 1-0 lead going into the second period. But then at 3:16, Austin Watson would score for the Predators to tie up the game at 1 apiece. Then Blake Comeau would score at 4:51 to get the lead back for the Colorado Avalanche. And then at 8:50 on the power play, Craig Smith would score to tie the game back up at 2 for the Predators. And then in the third period, this is where Nashville really just took over the game, which you kind of figured they would do against Colorado. Philip Forsberg scored at 6:08 and 12:10 to make it 3-2 and 4-2. And then Colton Sissons scored 1 minute, or his first of the game, or of the playoffs at 18:03 to secure the victory for the Predators and give them a 1-0 series lead. We kind of know that with the Nashville Predators that this series with Colorado, I said that St. Louis would be a bigger challenge for the Predators. I still believe that Colorado, they will be a challenge, but I don't see them being the same type of challenge as St. Louis would have been. So, this could be like Colorado gets a game, or it could be a sweep also by the Nashville Predators, just like how it is with the Tampa Bay Lightning with the New Jersey Devils. And then in Anaheim, the Anaheim Ducks took on the San Jose Sharks, which saw Evander Kane finally make his playoffs debut. And in the first period, there was no scoring, but in the second period, at 7:07 on the power play and 13:51 on even strength, Evander Kane would score his first 2 career playoff goals against the Ducks, and then Brent Burns would add one at 15:15 in the second period to lead the San Jose Sharks to a 3-0 victory and a 1-0 series lead over the Anaheim Ducks. So, then you have last night. And last night, we're going to start off with the Philadelphia Flyers and the Pittsburgh Penguins. In the first period at 19:23 on the power play, Shane Gostisbehere was able to score a leaky goal on Matt Murray. Gostisbehere shooting a bomb from the point, getting it on the net, and it just squeaked right through Matt Murray and into the net. Very good goal for Shane Gostisbehere. It also ended Matt Murray's shutout streak that dated back to the Stanley Cup Finals with games 5 and 6. And then going into the second period at 47 seconds in, Sean Couturier would score a beautiful goal for the Flyers. And then going into the third period at 1:29 into the period, Thomas Konechny would score a very great, or Travis Konechny, I can't remember the kid's name right now, I'm blanking. Konechny scored a very beautiful goal where he beat the defender and scored short side on Matt Murray. And then Nick Patrick scoring his first career goal on the power play. Another great goal. He gets it, and then he shoots it up right below the crossbar. So Matt Murray had no chance of being able to get to the other side and make the save. And then at 5:27, Patrick Hornqvist would score his first of the playoffs. And at 19:44, Andrew McDonald would score his first of the playoffs to seal the deal for the Philadelphia Flyers. With the empty net, the Philadelphia Flyers would win 5-1 for the Flyers. They played a much better game. You know, the biggest thing that plagued the Flyers in their first game was the amount of turnovers and the undisciplined play that they put out there. In this game, the Flyers played a much more disciplined game. They controlled their turnovers much better. They made better outlet passes, and they played an overall better game. And Brian Elliott was lights out as well. So. This stuff happens at the most inopportune time. All right. Sorry about that. But yeah, and Brian Elliott turned it back on. He played a much better performance as well. You know, key things that, you know, Elliott's got to do, especially for the Flyers, is cover up and freeze the puck more often to stop the Pittsburgh Penguins' abilities to swarm the net and get those odd chances that they got in Game 1 as well. The more they do that, I could see the Flyers still taking out the Pittsburgh Penguins, especially when you irritate Sidney Crosby the way they're irritating Evgeny Malkin and Patrick Hornquist. You know, you irritate those three guys, you start hitting Phil Kessel, who doesn't like to get hit. You know, you take out those top four guys, you know, you take them out of the game completely, and then the game is all yours. Also, you got to see what the extent of the hand injury is on Chris Letang. On an incidental hit between Giroux and Letang, he got cut on the hand, like right here. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens with Chris Letang these next couple days going into the as the series goes on. Then you had the Winnipeg Jets taking on the Minnesota Wild, and in the first period there was no scoring once again between these two teams. But in the second period, it'd be Tyler Myers scoring for the Winnipeg Jets at 8:41. And then in the third period at 7:42, Paul Stastny would score his first of the playoffs. Then Andrew Kopp would score at 9:24 for his first of the playoffs. And at 17:58, Patrick Laine would score his second of the playoffs at 17:58. And then on the power play at 19:15, Zach Parise would score his second of the playoffs. But it would be too late for him and the Minnesota Wild as the Winnipeg Jets take a 4-1 victory and a 2-0 series lead over the Minnesota Wild. The biggest thing I said is that for Minnesota is going to be their defense. How healthy is Jared Spurgeon? They don't have Ryan Suter in the lineup at all. That, you know, especially the fact that Ryan Suter plays between 26 to 30 minutes a night for the Minnesota Wild, that will play a major factor on what happens with the Wild for them. And then in last night's game between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Los Angeles Kings, you had a thriller. I went to bed after the second period just because, you know, I was starting to fall asleep and needed sleep. But in the first period, it'd be Alex Tuch at 14:47 on the power play for the Vegas Golden Knights to get them the first goal of the game again for back-to-back games. And then in the second period, it would be Ledoux at 15:55 on the power play, scoring for the Los Angeles Kings to tie up the game. And this game would require double overtime, which would see Eric Haula score his first of the playoffs at 15:23 to win the game in double overtime for the Vegas Golden Knights as they take a 2-0 lead over the Kings in this series with the 2-1 victory last night. And then looking at the schedule, thank you, NHL app or website. In 6 weeks, we'll get the... Oh, come on. The NHL.com website is so great with their scores that they just error everything out. But anyways, when you look at the playoff bracket, right now, you have Nashville leading 1-0 over Colorado, Winnipeg 2-0 over Minnesota, Vegas 2-0 over LA, and San Jose 1-0 over Anaheim. In the East, you have Philadelphia and Pittsburgh tied at 1 apiece, Columbus up 1-0 over the Capitals, Boston up 1-0 over the Maple Leafs, and Tampa Bay up 1-0 over the New Jersey Devils. Do we have the scores? We do have the scores. How about that? So today's games at 3 p.m., you have the Colorado Avalanche at the Nashville Predators, and then also at 3 p.m., the New Jersey Devils at the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then at 8 p.m., you have the Toronto Maple Leafs at the Boston Bruins, and at 10:30 p.m., you have the San Jose Sharks at the Anaheim Ducks. Now for Colorado, Nashville, that'll be NBC or CNBC, depending on what market you're in. For the New Jersey Devils versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. And that will be on NBC or CNBC, depending on what network you're in as well. So I would assume East Coast gets Devils Lightning as the NBC game, whereas the West Coast will get Colorado Nashville as their NBC game, and then be on CNBC depending on what market you're in. And then you have the Maple Leafs and Bruins on NBC at 8 o'clock tonight. We're not going to get it, but please, I would so love the Hockey Night in Canada feed on NBC with their intermission stuff, because it's so much better than the NBC stuff. And then at 10:30 p.m. on NBC Sports Network, you have the San Jose Sharks at the Anaheim Ducks. Ducks will be looking to tie up their series, as are the Maple Leafs, Devils, and Avalanche in their respective series as well. And then I just want to look at one thing real quick from yesterday. Go to Game Center for the Vegas LA game. Let's see here. I want team stats. The hits in this game was Los Angeles 80, Vegas 56 for last night. So that's 136 hits. That was 9 more than the previous night. Damn. So you can tell that this is a very, very physical series. That's going to be between these two teams out in the West. So, and as I said, I was going to go to news and notes first before I hopped into before I did anything else. But last night in the game between the Golden Knights and the Los Angeles Kings, yeah, exactly, hit trains going left and right. On the 12th, on Thursday, Los Angeles Kings defenseman Drew Doughty had been suspended for 1 game for an illegal check to the head of Vegas Golden Knights forward William Carrier during Game 1 of the team's first-round series in Las Vegas on Wednesday, April 11th. The incident occurred at 9:58 of the third period, and after watching the play of the hit, it was warranted that he should have gotten at least 1 game. Then, nope, that. And then actually I have the article on my phone. Let's see here. I have the article on my phone. There was a really good article. Oh, of course it doesn't want to do it that way. But there was a really good article in USA Today yesterday about the Doughty suspension and how it should set the bar for George Peros when it comes to hits, and it coming to suspensions as well, where it's like it's zero tolerance even in the playoffs. And what the guy was writing was pretty much that he hopes that it sets the bar, and that even if you're a star and you do a dirty hit, that it keeps coming. Well, yesterday the Toronto Maple Leafs forward Nazem Kadri has been suspended for 3 games for boarding Boston Bruins forward Tommy Wingels during Game 1 of the team's first-round series in Boston on Thursday, April 12th. The incident occurred at 8:14 of the third period. Kadri was assessed a major penalty for charging and a game misconduct. So it showed right there, Drew Doughty, top defenseman for the Los Angeles Kings. That showed right there that, hey, it was a headshot, 1 game, boom. Doughty was missed definitely by the Los Angeles Kings in Game 2. Nazem Kadri did something that we've, after watching both plays, was much worse than what Drew Doughty did. 3 games, so Toronto is now going to miss him tonight, Game 3 and Game 4 against the Boston Bruins, and that's going to be a factor for the Toronto Maple Leafs, especially when it comes to building their lineup. Now, questions being asked on the chat room. Surprised at Wilson Anderson not being suspended? No, I am not. I'm going to start with Josh Anderson because that was the first one that happened. I am not surprised that Josh Anderson is not being suspended, because I feel that with the way the hit was and watching for Anderson, after watching the play, the 5-inning game was just enough to warrant the penalties for him. I think anything further than that is completely unnecessary for Josh Anderson. Now, for Tom Wilson, I mean, it wasn't a charge. By definition of a charge is that, and I keep saying this 5,000 times to people, and people don't want to freaking listen. This is why this is Serious Hockey Talk for Serious Hockey fans, because we actually know what the hell we're talking about here. A charge, by definition, in the rule book, is when you take 3 or more strides to hit an opponent. Tom Wilson glided into the opponent. That, by definition, is not charging. That is in the freaking rule book. He did not jump into the freaking hit. It's like talking to a brick wall on this one. But should Wilson be suspended? No, he should not be suspended. Shouldn't have been a penalty in the first place. Both plays were reviewed by the league, and the league did not felt that both were not warranted of a hearing, period. So, moving on to the next thing. It's okay, I don't need that stuff anymore. So, looking at the Capitals Blue Jackets Game 1 game. Yeah, it looked worse because of Ovi being behind the guy. It's all perception, but when you actually look and break down the play, it's not. Need to pull back up the stuff for the game. I accidentally deleted out of that. Let's see here. Pull that back up. On Thursday. It was a 5-inning game. He hit Kempney on the number behind the net. It was completely unnecessary. Alright, so let's take a look at some statistical breakdown of the Capitals game against the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Capitals outshot Columbus 30-27. Columbus was better in the face-off circle with a 55% face-off winning percentage to the Capitals' 45%. On the power play, the Capitals were 2 for 6, and on the power play, Columbus was 2 for 4. Although one of those power plays shouldn't have happened. However, Columbus had a total of 21 penalty minutes to the Capitals' 8. Hits were 30-25 in favor of Columbus. Blocks were 22-20 in favor of the Caps, and giveaways was 8-7 in favor of the Capitals, which is not a good thing to have in your favor. Oh, that's why it's not working for me. Where is it? Come on, where is this damn thing? There it is. Alright, here we go. That's what I wanted. Now, this has been a concern of mine for the Capitals in a while. Now, the Capitals outshot Columbus 9-4 in the first period, which was very good, and that's how they have to continue to play Columbus. In the second period, they outshot them 16-12. Still good, but I would have liked to see Columbus's number of shots lowered, like it was in the first period. And then in the third period, Columbus outshot the Capitals 9-5. This has been a growing concern of mine all season, where in the third period, they just don't try. They don't play the third period like they do the first and the second. And in overtime, they're outshot 2-0. So they gave up both shots, and the second one being the game-winning goal. So when you look at it in this perspective, the Caps played great the first two periods, but in the third period, they just didn't play. Outside of, I believe, the Devontae Smith penalty goal, which I'm going to pull up real quick. Yeah, outside the Devontae Smith penalty goal, the Caps really didn't do much, and they put themselves in the penalty trouble because not only were the Wilson and Burakovsky penalties called, which were both scored. But Kuznetsov took a slashing penalty against Artemi Panarin at 11:19. So they put themselves in the penalty trouble. They let Columbus dictate the period. And that is a growing concern for the Capitals. If the Capitals don't continue to play the third period, they're not going to win. Period. So tomorrow, because they don't play till tomorrow, because they have 2 days off, and by the way, big mistake by Barry Trotz and the Capitals to give the team the day off yesterday. They should have practiced. When you look at a majority of the games this past season, majority of the games are, especially when the Capitals are up and in the lead, is that they don't put in as much effort in the third period. They did not choke, despite what Russian Machine Never Break posted or what other people like to post. The Capitals didn't choke. They didn't try. That's what I saw from the Washington Capitals on Thursday night in that third period. And when you're in overtime and you have both all three forwards, Tom Wilson, Alexander Ovechkin, and Evgeny Kuznetsov, in front of the net, where Sergei Bobrovsky can't even see squat about what's going on in front of the net, and Orlov and Carlson are just playing past the puck with each other at the point, which then led to the break out of the zone, and then eventually the game-winning goal by Artemi Panarin. Come on, you shoot that puck into that crowd and just hope that it goes in the freaking net, or that it gets, or at least hits Bobrovsky for a rebound opportunity. You got to do stuff like that to win games. And the first two periods, the Caps did everything that I knew that they can do. But in the third period, they didn't do anything, which is what has been a mantra of them throughout the season. Again, it's not choking, but it's just been very frustrating watching that throughout the entire season and knowing that the third period is their worst period hands down and that they aren't trying at all. So, yeah, that's the big thing. The Capitals just need to play a full 60 minutes to win. And if they're not going to play a full 60 minutes, then they aren't going to win. Period. And I think anybody with a brain will acknowledge that fact and go, yeah, that's what the Caps need to do. They just didn't try. They didn't put the effort through in the third period, and that's what happened. I saw it crystal clear from the seats in the arena. So, but yeah. And of course you're going to see constant complaining on Twitter and on Facebook. You're going to see it all the time. Because people don't know what they're talking about. So, it's okay. But yeah. Yeah, the Burakovsky penalty was a bad penalty. That was, and actually the Kuznetsov penalty was a bad one, because when they showed us the replay of the Kuznetsov penalty, Kuznetsov didn't even slash anybody. So, but yeah, the Burakovsky one, when he's coming down, in the offensive zone, and then he trips up the defenseman. Yeah, that was a bad one, and that one was the one that tied up the game, and that one really gave Columbus the momentum going into overtime, because when they scored that one in the beginning of the third, I believe that was Vanek's goal. Smith Pelly was able to respond right away and bring the momentum back to the Capitals, but then you had the Kuznetsov penalty sometime after that, and then you had the Burakovsky penalty after that. And when they scored on the Burakovsky penalty, you could see the momentum truly swing Columbus's way in that game as well. So, man, I got 25 minutes left to kill. There ain't much really to talk about right now. I mean, it's just the Capitals just got to play a full 60 minutes tomorrow. Kind of like what Philly did. Philly lost 7-0 in their first game. And then they came back and they played a much better overall game and beat Pittsburgh 5-1 yesterday. Capitals need to do the same. They played good the first two periods. They played like crap the third and the overtime. They just need to turn it around and play a better overall game for a full 60 minutes against Columbus. And if they do, they're going to win. Plain and simple. So, yeah, it's just, That's just how it is. You know, and actually, Shaggy, you can attest to this because I had that interaction with that one fan after the game going on the Metro, and he was I'll say it straight up, he was whining like a little bitch about how the series is over and all this and all that, and the first thing I said to the kid was, if you're gonna be like a little bitch, don't go to the games anymore, because we don't want you there. And that's the thing. You know, it's this mentality. You know, it was only game 1 of a 7-game series. You know, one game does not dictate the entire series. Now, if the Capitals come out tomorrow and they play like crap, then there's cause for concern. But if the Caps go out and win tomorrow, you go, okay, this is a whole new series. Now it's a best of 5. Who gets the next 3 wins? Because you got 5 games to do it. Right now, you just played 1 game. Look at the series between Philly and Pittsburgh. Philly's back in it because of that. Yeah, that guy was awful. But, you know, New Jersey can theoretically turn things around. Toronto can still turn things around. You know, Colorado can still turn things around. Anaheim can still turn things around. Because they're all down 1-0 in their series. The only series where it's now going to be a dogfight for the teams is going to be Los Angeles and Minnesota, who are both down 2-0. Once you get down 2-0, that's when you really got to see how deep the team is going to dig to get themselves out of the hole that they're in. And that's the thing. Yeah, and you know what? That's a good point right there. Shaggy just posted in the chat, for anyone who's interested, do ask questions in the chat room here on Twitch. Apparently Mike Vogel, beat reporter for the Washington Capitals, hopped by Shaggy's family store, and when I heard my dad talking with Mike Vogel yesterday, Vogel said the Caps historically play better when they drop game 1. This is also true. Another person who proved that put out that fact was also a good friend of the show, Ted Starkey. Ted Starkey came out and said that, you know, the Caps generally have a better record when they lose game 1 of a series than when they win game 1 of a series. So for the Capitals, you know, this could be better off for them losing the first game and then taking the second one. So we'll see. There's time to see what happens. You know, today the teams are off, so you know they don't play again until tomorrow. And I know Shaggy and I are very happy that our games that the NHL decided not to make the Capitals the 3:00 game, so we can actually play in our game at 2:40 p.m. and then be home in time to watch the Caps game against at 7:30 p.m. against Columbus. So I'm definitely happy about that. So yeah. And Kemney says he's good to go for game 2 despite missing game 1. Let's see here. Oh, those are just tweets from some guy by the name of Shaggy. Some guy named Shaggy's just tweeting. But yeah, I just saw the tweet by Tarek Al-Bashir. Definitely good. Yeah, I said 7:30 p.m. puck drop, Dixon. Good job for paying attention. But yeah, I definitely like I like the idea of the fact that Kemney says he's good to go for tomorrow, but only time will tell on that. I definitely think that yeah, this is you know, the Caps are still in this thing. You know, they played really good the first 2 periods. They just got to play good in the third, and that I think they'll be fine. That's the key thing right there. You know, the third period was their worst period, which is something that they as a team need to fix. Where's that little? There it is. Why does this thing do that? I really hate that. They really do, actually. I agree with that sentiment that the Capitals play really good with both Jerabek and and Kempny in the lineup. I definitely like Kempny with John Carlson, and I definitely like Jarabek with Brooks Orpik. I think, that's actually a good conversation piece right there. Everyone going on about Brooks Orpik and how he's useless to the Caps. I saw him do a lot of the little things that are really good that the Capitals need. And even when the Caps kind of phoned it in the third period, he was probably one of the better players out on the ice, in my opinion, for the Capitals, especially on the penalty kill. All the little things that he did for the Capitals in the third period. Like, he honestly was my best player in the third period, was Brooks Orpik. And having him with Jarabek is always good. Let's see here. I want to see something. I wonder if they'll give it to me. They probably won't. I don't think it's full play-by-play. Let's do the event summary. Yeah, it won't give me the full thing because of the way the website's set up. Oh wow, how great of them! They put in the anthem in the play-by-play box. Let's see here. Huh. Okay. Oh, wow, that's interesting. It actually tells you who does each giveaway too, which is kind of cool. But yeah, that's not going to be what I wanted, so crap. Is this it? No, that won't be it either. Yeah, I was looking for something specific, but they weren't going to give it to me. But yeah, I definitely think that yeah, I mean, here's the thing, with Brooks Orpik. Brooks Orpik is the defensive stability that the Caps need. It's why they signed him in the first place, and I believe he's only got 1 year left on the contract anyways. And yeah, people who keep saying that Orpik needs to get cut in the offseason, they don't know what they're talking about. They're just saying it for the sake of saying it, and it's something that, it's just not going to happen. The guy is one of your leaders in the locker room. The guy has won a cup, and it's just not going to happen. And Rod Langway came out and flat out said it. Is that, when they're talking about when the Players Hockey Writers Association created the Rod Langway Award for Best Defensive Defenseman, which is technically what the Norris Trophy should be. It's about the best defenseman, period. Not forwards who play defense like Erik Karlsson. Rod Langway was talking about what it meant to have an award named after him and stuff like that. And one of the things that he said was, I like this award. Then he started talking about the Caps, and he started talking about Brooks Orpik and saying that Brooks Orpik, does all the little things that are completely necessary to help the Washington Capitals. And he's right. I see it. Shaggy sees it. Dixon says it. And, and the guy is in his, mid to late 30s. And he's still playing very well for the Washington Capitals. And he's blocking shots like crazy. Let me see if actually they'll give me that, at least. Okay. Oh, by the way, that was a really great block shot by Alex Ovechkin in the game on the other night. Where's Orpik? Orpik had one block shot, but he had 2 hits and 2 shots on goal in 1939 minutes of playing time. Orlov had 28.59 minutes of playing time with 4 block shots, 2 shots on goal, a hit, a giveaway, and a takeaway. Kempny only played 4 minutes 4 seconds. Karlsson played 28:36 with 2 blocks and 1 shot on goal. Niskanen played 28 minutes with 6 block shots, 6 hits, 1 giveaway, and 1 shot on goal. Carlson also had 3 assists for the defense for the Washington Capitals on Game 1. Let's see here. Jarabek played 13 minutes and 17 seconds, and he had 2 block shots. So overall, block shots for the Caps defense. Niskanen had 6, Orla had 4, so that's 10. Jarabek had 2, 12. So the Caps defense had 15 block shots, led by Niskanen, Orlov, and Orpik was able to generate hits that knocked guys off the puck, and he also had 2 shots on goal for the Capitals. You know, so those 2 shots on goal are 2 opportunities to score, and that's what Brooks Orpik is giving you on the team right now. Let's put that man on the power play. No, I'm just kidding, but he's perfect on the penalty kill. Actually, let's talk about Grubauer. Thinking about it, stopped 23, made 23 saves on 27 shots, has a .852 save percentage, and in 65 minutes and 33 seconds of ice time. Grubauer, I thought, played very well for the Capitals, but was outplayed by Sergei Bobrovsky. There were saves that Sergei Bobrovsky made that were spectacular, and probably if he didn't make those saves, this would be a different conversation we'd be having right now about the Capitals, where they would have won the game instead of lost the game because the goaltending of Sergei Bobrovsky was not there. But that's the thing. I think Grubauer played really well, but then something got. I think Shaggy, you tweeted it. There was a goalie scouting report on Grubauer, where on 2 of the goals that he gave up, including the overtime winner, his goalie glove was down on his leg pad. And it was something that when you watch back and you look at it, you go, huh, his glove hand really is on the leg pad. And that's something that Grubauer needs to fix, because if he keeps doing that, the Columbus Blue Jackets are going to exploit that on him all series long, and this could be a very long series for Grubauer then, or it could be a very short one, because then they'll be putting Braden Holtby back in the net. So definitely think that's something that Grubauer needs to fix on his game, and that he, if he can do it, he will, he'll be lights out for the Capitals against the Columbus Blue Jackets. But yeah, it's just that little thing where he needs to get the glove up and take away that slot area that they're shooting on. He does that, they're winning the game every time, and he's making those saves. So let's see here. Who else needs to be talked about? Let's see here. Evgeny Kuznetsov had 3 hits. Of course, all 4 penalties are against top guys on the Capitals: Wilson, Burakovsky, Oshie, and Kuznetsov. And those are guys who need to stay out of the penalty box, especially like Oshie and Wilson, who do the penalty killing and stuff like that. Oh, let's see here. Oh yeah, no, I knew he was going to stick with Grubauer in Game 1. I mean, I wouldn't have pulled Grubauer either and put Holtby in for Game 2, but I'm just saying that for Grubauer, he needs to get the glove up, to take away those opportunities. Because if he had this glove up, we probably would, the Caps probably could have won in overtime instead of Panarin scoring the way he did against Grubauer. Let's see here. There was an interesting conversation between Shaggy and I during the game, where I said that Connolly had been very quiet for a while. And then the moment I said that, Connolly, Stevenson, and Alexander Chason, they made really great play after that, which they had a really good shift. They drew a penalty and stuff like that, and they got a couple chances on the net as well. I really want to see more out of Connolly. Where's Connolly with Eller and Smith-Pelly? No, Connolly was with Stevenson and Chason. But I really like to see more out of Brett Connolly. You know, the last season in the playoffs, he was non-existent, and it got to a point where Txht didn't play him at all, and they played 7 defensemen instead. Okay, so he was on the line with... Yeah, but I think at some point during the game, though, that they bumped him down. I think they put Smith-Pelly up on that line, and they bumped him down from the 3rd line to the 4th. Because when he had that shift with Chason and Stevenson, not with Eller or Burakovsky. Yeah, I think that was the line later on in the game when we were talking about Connolly and Chason. So, but yeah, I want to see Brett Connolly step up. You know, he had a great regular season, but you know, in the playoffs last season, he didn't show up, and Trotz couldn't trust him in the playoffs. You know, now, you know, you got to show that what you did in the regular season you can do in the playoffs, and I haven't seen it outside one shift. I haven't seen it from Connolly yet. Devontae Smith-Pelly, definitely happy with his performance, scoring a big goal for the Capitals when they needed it. But yeah, it'll be interesting going into tomorrow's game 2. And then in the KHL Finals, the Gagarin Cup, Game 1 is going on between CSKA and Akbars. Former Capital player Stanislav Gailev scored the first goal of the game. And right now, Akbars and CSKA game is 1-1 heading into the 3rd. Thank you, Shaggy. Thank you, Shaggy, for that. So, I'm actually going to wrap early. We'll have more to talk about next Saturday, because we'll have games 2, 3, and 4, I believe, to talk about going into Saturday, and we'll have much more playoff coverage around the rest of the NHL. So as always, you can follow the show on Twitter at TXHT_hockey. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/TXHThockey. Join the Patreon community today at patreon.com/TXHT_hockey. Huge shout out to Kevin from Elite Prospects. He actually follows the show. Thank you, Kevin, so much for that. And then also, don't forget to tell your friends to follow the show on Twitch and watch live every Saturday at 11 a.m. at twitch.tv/TXHT_hockey. And also, Axel Johnson Falvey, postseason is over. Is he the next cap prospect to an entry-level contract? Hopefully. We'll see. We'll see. It's probably too late right now, but probably over the summer he will. But, so, with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching the Experience Hockey Talk series, Hockey Talk for serious hockey fans. And until next Saturday at 11 a.m., we will see you on the ice.